If your idea or artwork is too complex for shape layers in RubberHose, and the art needs a smooth bend, unlike RubberRig, which gives a more rigid bend, it's time for RubberPin. Puppet pins. Loved and hated by many, it's now painless to connect a set of 3 pins and control them as easy as a hose. RubberPin allows you to use multiple pin groups on a single layer, and allows you to clone your artwork onto an existing RubberHose. Let's jump in. If you decide to pick up RubberHose after watching this video, I have an affiliate code in the description. I would really appreciate it. So we have our character here, and we're going to rig it using RubberPin. So let's rig the arms first. I'm going to come down here to my arm front layer, and I'm going to solo it. Now if you zoom in, the first thing you want to make sure you do is put the anchor point to the point at which you want the limb to pivot. So we want the arm to pivot from the shoulder, right? So choose the pan behind tool up here, or press Y and drag the anchor point to the shoulder. Then grab the puppet pin tool and put 3 pins, 1 at the shoulder, 1 at the elbow, and 1 at the tip. What this has done is it's placed 3 keyframes in the selected layer. So if you press U while having the layer selected, you'll bring up those 3 keyframes. Now come over to the RubberHose panel. If you don't have it open, you can go to Window, RubberHose, and here in the RubberHose panel, we're going to name our hose. So we're going to name it arm front. We're going to select shoulder wrist because we're dealing with an arm. Now we're going to box select all 3 of those keyframes and press new RubberPin. And you can see here it's made a limb for us. Looks pretty terrible right now, but we're going to fix that. We're going to unsolo this layer, and if you bend this arm, see it looks not right. Let's select our wrist, press E and toggle down the RubberHose effect. Change the bend direction to -100, and now let's see how that looks. Looks okay. The bend in the elbow doesn't look very good, so we're going to tweak the realism property, which I think will add a more even curve to it. So I think a realism here of about 83 works quite nicely. That looks okay. So we're now going to rig the other arm. Why don't you pause the video and see if you can do it by yourself? If not, I'll do it now. Again, I'm going to solo the layer, move the anchor point to the shoulder, puppet pin tool, place down 3 puppet pins, press U, highlight those 3 keyframes, name the limb in the RubberHose panel. I'm going to go for arm back, shoulder wrist, new RubberPin. Unsolo those. Let's have a play. See again, I think I want to change the bend direction to the other way. And I will use the same realism that I did on the other limb of 83. Now we have 2 fairly nicely rigged arms. At the start of the video, I mentioned you could have multiple pin groups on a single layer. So our body layer has both legs on it, which normally would be pretty tough to rig, but we're going to give it a go using RubberPin. So again, I'm going to move the anchor point to, I think, the hips. I'm going to select the puppet pins, and I'm going to place 3 pins going down the leg all the way to the foot. I'm going to press U, highlight them. I'm going to name this leg back. I'm going to change to the hip ankle naming convention because we're dealing with a leg here. And I'm going to press new RubberPin. And now when we move it, the whole body goes skew-whiff because we haven't added any other pins. So we're going to do that. Let's do the same on the other side. Let's make sure to deselect everything we have selected and add in some more pins. And again, we're going to press U, and we're going to highlight the 3 pins. Make sure you only highlight the pins that are for these. You can see if they're selected, highlighted, because they're a solid yellow dot rather than a yellow outline. And then we're going to call this one leg front. Hip ankle is selected, and then new RubberPin. And now we can sort of move this leg around. One final step is we don't want the body to move like that when we move the leg. I'm going to add one final set of pins going up the body as the kind of spine. So I'm going to select the body, and I'm going to put one here, and one here. And then I'm going to press U again, select all 3 of those. I'm going to name it body. And there isn't really a naming convention which suits this, so I'm going to choose start end, just a generic naming convention. Press a new RubberPin, and now we can move the body around like so. If we unsolo all of this, here we have our character. Just going to move the body into place there. Let me just move the head. Okay, so now one thing left to do is to kind of do a bit of parenting here, because right now if we move the body pin, the head and the shoulders don't move with it. So we want to make sure that the head and the shoulders move with this body pin. So if we select the head and we parent it to body start, and if we select the two shoulders and parent them to the body start, now when we move body start, you can see the head and the shoulders kind of move with it, and that allows us to animate things a bit easier. We might want to tweak the properties for the legs, like the realism of the bend, to try and smooth that knee out a little bit. You can even tweak the hip position if you feel like that makes the hose look a bit better. So each limb also provides you with a transform layer, which allows you to drag the limb around by itself, and that's denoted by this diamond icon. And that is how you set up a rig using a RubberPin. The other thing that RubberPin allows you to do is to clone your artwork onto a default rubber hose. So if I, for instance, create a new rubber hose here, let's just drag it over here. Now we quickly set up a RubberPin rig for our artwork, just like we did before. Just move the anchor points, set up some pins, press U, highlight those, new RubberPin rig. If I highlight those pins as usual, and then I control click one of the controllers for the default rubber hose, and then I hold Alt and I click new rubber pin, you can see it's mapped our artwork onto this default hose, and you can actually see the hose behind it there a little bit. And in order to get rid of that, you have to select your hose layer, enable the track alpha option, which is here, and that will get rid of the hose behind, and then you can tweak the properties just as you would a default rubber hose in there as well.
Check out my Patreon to get access to exclusive project files and asset packs, discount codes on some great plugins, and at the same time support the channel. You can also join the Discord server where you can chat about animation, get feedback on your work from other community members, promote yourself and more. And as always guys, see you on the flippity flop.